This is an impossible comparison I'm about to come up with, okay? Just bear with me, okay? You know, like movies like She's All That, where...
Welcome to SinCast, presented by Cinemasins.
This episode of the SinCast is brought to you by NatureBox. Go to naturebox.com/SinCast to get 50% off your first order. All right, everybody, welcome to the SinCast. This is Chris Atkinson from Cinemasins, joined as always by the voice of Cinemasins, Jeremy Scott.
Yowza!
And from Music Video Sins, Barrett Scher.
Hello!
You know what? You know what? Technically, you're also part of Cinemasins too, and I hate sometimes, just singling you out as Music Video Sins because you are a part of the Cinemasins as well.
Part of the family.
But it makes it easier to describe you.
That's also where you can find him on Twitter.
Yeah.
Barrett runs the Music Video Sins Twitter, and a lot of people think it's just me talking to myself.
Yes,
that's such a weird thing. Like I would invent an entirely other account.
That's how I'm going to spend my time.
Yeah, so that I can just talk back and forth and like in a different voice. I've always wanted to do it in different writing than I normally do. It's my alter ego.
My friend Kevin, back in like 2000, maybe 99, he and I used to have our computers in the same room. We would go into the same chat room and pretend not to know each other and then have this huge fight. It was awesome.
Turn of the century internet fights.
I was going to say, back when Yahoo chat rooms were like a thing, when people actually did. Showing my age.
So today we're going to continue our March Madness.
Let the games begin! Do you believe in miracles? Yes! Battle Royale!
The crowd is just on its feet here. He's a Cinderella boy.
You're excited! Feel these nipples!
Madness!
That's right. We're going to continue the East region and hopefully finish it.
How many do we have left?
I think we got 4, right?
We ought to be able to do that.
Yeah.
We got 4. We
got
might
4
even get
matchups.
it. We might even get in the South region if we're lucky. But
That's right.
we're going to at least finish up the East region today. And let's see. We left off at the 5 and 12. So we're going to do the 6 and 11 today. The 6 and 11, 6th seed is There Will Be Blood.
Ooh.
Versus number 11, Lost in Translation.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
This is probably going to be tougher on Chris and I than it is on Jeremy.
Yeah, I'm not like the biggest Lost in Translation guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and Lost in Translation, no longer a poster up here in the studio.
Yeah,
Because
we changed them all
We
out.
changed them all
Now
out.
Toy Story's in its place.
Yeah, Toy Story's in its place. We got American Beauty, Saving Private Ryan, The Dark Knight, Tropic Thunder. All right, so number 6, There Will Be Blood. Now, There Will Be Blood always comes up in the conversation for me personally as one of the best movies of the new millennium.
Mm-hmm. Rightfully so.
Now, we're only 17 years into it.
Mm-hmm.
So that means there's, 990 something years left to go. 983 to be exact. But anyway, this is Paul Thomas Anderson. Basically, I remember him saying, I loved my experiences with Boogie Nights and Magnolia and everything, but I started getting bored with how I was writing. Mm-hmm. He was like, everything sounds like me every single time. I wanted to try something different. And There Will Be Blood, which is loosely based on Upton Sinclair's Oil.
Yeah. Very important punctuation there.
It's like, wham!
Yeah, exactly. Oil and the Teapot Dome scandals back in the day and everything. It's sort of a throwback to those old family oil movies that came out in the 50s and stuff like that. Only this time it's like, how far will someone go to build an empire?
Yeah.
And under the hands of Daniel Plainview, under Daniel Day-Lewis's acting and everything, it's as far as it possibly can go.
Yeah, I was going to say pretty fucking far.
It's a masterclass. Like, he's done, everything he does is terrific. I mean, starting with The Unbearable Lightness of Being, which is not his first film, but the first time I saw him. And then, My Left Foot, Gangs of New York was terrific a few years prior to this. but it just doesn't get any better than this when it comes to enjoying a performance than Daniel Day-Lewis's performance in this. It's epic. It's sinister the whole way through.
Mm-hmm.
It's dangerous. It's under control almost the entirety of the time. It's diabolical. I mean, it's everything, but you're still kind of rooting for him at times too.
Yeah.
And I mean, because it's told almost solely through his perspective. And from the very beginning, when you see him, when he's going into that silver mine shaft and everything, silent 15 minutes almost on the dialogue free at least, and then to the very ending line, which is not spoiling it, I'm finished.
Yeah.
Has you riveted the entire time.
Yeah, he's fantastic. This is probably, I think, his best performance.
I think so, yeah.
Career full of performances most actors would be jealous of. And we talked about this at length when we did 2007. This was a great year. This movie, I believe, won when we did our best of the year thing. But we had Gone Baby Gone and No Country for Old Men. It was just stacked with great drama. And then, on the other end of the spectrum, we have Lost in Translation, which I don't think has much great drama. I don't think it's trying to.
No.
You guys love this movie, right?
Yep.
And I think part of what makes this movie appealing is Scarlett Johansson just sort of pulls you in, right? And you sort of go on this wayward, listless journey with her. But I think the most the movie might have to say is that everyone gets lost sometimes, right?
Yeah.
As kind of a nationalist perspective, especially in America, something like India or Japan or Russia or something like that, not, Western Europe, is so foreign to us that we're not usually able to dive in and see that kind of world. And what this does is gives you that perspective for an American in particular into Japan and Tokyo and that kind of thing. By kind of making fun with the whole Lost in Translation between the languages and everything. It encapsulates it when that scene where Bill Murray is talking with the director to do the Centauri commercial. Yeah, and he's like, "Oh, do this," and he's like, "What do you want me to? You slower, faster? What do you want me to do?" But it's not at the expense of that culture. It's almost like this is what would actually happen. We can laugh about it. But we're not laughing at them or anything,
right? And we know at least one person who knows Japanese who says that
it's me. I just spoke Japanese.
Oh yeah, that's
that
right.
Was beautiful, wasn't it?
Right, it was totally Barrett. But no, like that says that the translation is pretty much word for word in that, like these long, long-winded things that have really no direction in it, like turn to camera and like a good friend and with more intensity, those are actually the real directions he's getting and everything. I am Lost in Translation. I've always said this about it, because I don't usually like movies like this. I usually don't like movies with no story in it. There's no story in Lost in Translation. Really. All it is Scarlett Johansson is with her terrible husband who always has to go out and work while they're out in Japan, and Bill Murray is in this long loveless marriage now, and he's going out to do a Santori commercial for the money, and it's just these two people who find each other, and there's really no expectation, I guess, on the audience that we're expecting them to go to bed by the end of it. It's like we really kind of wanted them to keep it like this the entire time. But there's something about it. There's something beautiful and poetic about this movie, and I'm always wrapped up into it. And the scene where she goes to that those gardens, and she's walking across the little lily pad things or whatever. I just get sucked into all that. It's like a travelogue for Japan. Yeah. And I instantly want to go there and everything, even though there's not much really wrapping me up as far as story is concerned. So it's a movie that typically I would hate, but for whatever reason, Sofia Coppola really pulls this off, and it's hard to pull off. Yeah.
All of her movies have something. Right? Even the ones, I don't think any of them work as well as Lost in Translation does. Yeah. But I told you guys, I was watching Marie Antoinette was on TV again the other day, and even that movie has moments and shots where I'm like, wow, that's kind of brilliant.
Yep.
I see, and she's really good at building mood. And The Virgin Suicides is maybe the best example of that. And Lost in Translation is kind of like all of her best tricks coming together cohesively.
Yep.
What I like about the movie is that it shows us two very similarly lost and wayward, aimless people in two completely different parts of their life and for completely different reasons. And I love how fucking over it Bill Murray is. Like, you know what I mean? Like almost he does not give a fuck about pretty much anything. And that's part of why they click, I think.
Yeah. And we've talked about this before, and this has been widely speculated that this was based on like some real thing that happened to her in her life because she was married to Spike Jonze. Giovanni Ribisi's playing a guy who's like a music video director, which is what Spike Jonze was. And Anna Faris is basically playing Cameron Diaz in this, and there's a lot of like, you know, inference that, you know, Cameron Diaz and Spike Jonze, like, you know, as Anna Faris and Giovanni Ribisi or whatever, these characters had something that they, you know, had some affair or something. There's like the part where they like all run in each other in the lobby, and Anna Faris is like basically like flirting with him or whatever, and he like goes over to Scarlett Johansson and like starts doing all that. The she means nothing to me. You know, is sort of a telling type of thing. Of course, she's denied it. I mean, what else is she gonna do? It's one of those type of things. It's a perpetuating circular argument, basically. You know, but it would make sense as to why it's so good if it's something that personally happened to her, because that's what usually happens when somebody's like got that kind of like personal experience into their movie. It usually makes it really good.
Cameron Crowe and Almost
Cameron
Famous.
Crowe, perfect.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think Tokyo is like a character. Right?
Yeah, oh, definitely.
And I think you could do this concept in any number of non-American countries and get a similar feel, but I feel like she loves Tokyo. You know what I mean? And she wanted to do the beauty of that place justice. And yeah, apparently, if you're to believe this movie, karaoke's like Starbucks over here, right? It's just fucking everywhere.
Exactly. And it has one of my favorite musical moments in movies, at least in the last several years, is when Bill Murray is singing Roxy Music's More Than This.
Yeah.
And it's at towards the end of the night where they're all like, they've gone through their like party hits and everything. And it's just, it's him sitting down and just kind of like, more than this. He's doing this very like lounge singer delivery.
Well, and the lyrics.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
he's feeling it, right?
Yeah.
You know, there's nothing more than this. I mean, Jesus.
I know, it's
dark.
Awesome. He's wearing that crazy like bright camouflage shirt that he turns inside.
It's also a movie, much like Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. If you were to take out one scene, it would not be R-rated. In fact, it would probably be PG if it wasn't for that. And the one scene in Lost in Translation is just her going to the strip club, and they're singing that one song that all it is the group going sucking on my titties like you wanted to, you know, and it's like a girl, you know. And it's like one nude stripper right there, and that's it. That's the only thing that's R-rated.
I never really thought about it. Yeah,
and Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, obviously the big fuck, fuck this and fuck that scene is the only thing that makes that R-rated. But yeah, Lost in Translation is for like everybody. If you can like fast forward the one scene. Yeah,
it's great though.
Yeah, absolutely.
I veered us maybe away from There Will Be Blood a little soon. I feel bad now. You guys want to say any more about that before we?
Well, I mean, there's obviously a lot of great scenes in it. The thing about Plainview in this is everything's a competition to him in some way. You know, getting the town behind him and everything, and he's really competing against Paul Dano like the entire time for sort of hearts and minds. You know, Paul Dano is doing the whole preacher thing. This is a really religious town, but he's trying to get them on his side so that they'll sell them his land. Yeah. And so like, or sell him their land. Yeah. But the scenes with his son and everything, his basically adopted son, they're so great because he's willing to like let go of him while be like genuinely loving him. That's why it's so devastating by the end of it, where his son says, I'm going to open up my own business and everything. So that makes you a competitor.
Yeah.
And like basically he's decided, okay, well, you're not for me. You're against me now. And there's this big, huge, like where he's just basically like, let's just end this now. I'm going to say the worst possible things that I can say. It's like, you're a bastard in a basket and all that type of stuff.
Do you think he actually had... I know, like, especially when he loses his hearing, you see him kind of definitely care. I didn't get the sense that he really used him for anything other than, like, to bolster his reputation.
At first he does.
Because it's all just, I'm a family man. I've got HW here.
At first he does.
Mm-hmm.
It's clear it hurts him, though, to leave him on the train. And he sends basically his assistant up there to like be with him and everything. You can tell the kid's like sitting there yelling and all that.
Yeah.
And he's like, it doesn't look like he's not affected. You know, it looks like he genuinely. It's one of those like. This is an impossible comparison I'm about to come up with. Okay, just bear with me. Okay, you know, like movies like She's All That, where.
I can't wait. I can't wait. Oh, Jesus.
You could have gone like 9,000 different directions.
Oh,
I
God.
thought before She's All That.
I was just talking about Matthew Lillard, too.
And Can't Buy Me Love and all those type of movies that start out like a bet. And they say, and they don't like them. They don't really like them. They think they're a joke, just like everybody else does. But through the whole process, they eventually fall in love with the girl, and that's what I'm trying to get at. He's got. So let it be known from this point forward, I think There Will Be Blood is just like She's All That.
It's She's All That in the Wild West with oil and no
right.
Kevin Pollak.
That's right.
That's how they pitched it.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
All right. So obviously, this is one of the best filmed movies he's ever done. I think it's still his best movie of all time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it as much as I like Boogie Nights, this blows Boogie Nights out of the water.
Yep.
And that's hard to say because Boogie Nights is way up there on the level, you know, whatever. But this is something that we haven't seen. Modern audiences don't get a chance to see much. A movie that is made with this kind of scale, where that Johnny Greenwood score is amazing too. Very minimal type of like strings that just kind of come in.
Yeah.
So anyway, out of these two movies, where are we going to go and what's our order?
You're starting.
There Will Be Blood. I mean, this is another one of those things where I love Lost in Translation to pieces, but you talking about a movie here that just came in. It's hard to beat this movie. So There Will Be Blood is my pick.
Yep.
There will be blood.
There will.
Barrett's vote doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And it's just got more weight, more sustenance, more to chew on, and I don't know, think about and ponder. I mean, really all Lost in Translation has to chew on, if I'm not currently personally lost in life, is I wonder what that whispered thing he said was. That's really all I got. Whereas like There Will Be Blood is just, it's even hard to pick what scene I'm rolling over the most when it's done. Anyway.
It makes you think.
It does.
I mean, you go back over that whole church scene up at the front of the church when Paul Dano is going up against the greatest actor of his generation. I don't think there's really much debate about that. And he's not only holding his own, like he's right up there with him.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something about Paul Thomas Anderson that I can never get sick of. We talked about, I love The Master just a crazy amount. I know not everybody does. I loved Inherent Vice, even though it's a complete departure. Punch Drunk Love, and this is his best movie, so I can't vote against that for sure.
Sorry, Scarlett.
Yeah. Well, and you know, it's funny, Paul Dano, this is another thing. I almost wish I didn't know this fact. It was supposed to be somebody else.
Yeah.
And I don't remember, that's all you know. That's all anybody except the actor and whoever saw that person on set knows.
Oh, it was Zac Efron. That's what I heard.
Oh yeah, Zac Efron.
He would have killed in that role.
Absolutely. That would have been believable. Anyway, so There Will Be Blood moves on, and we go on to our 7 and 10 seeds. Number 7, Up in the Air.
Ooh, one of my favies.
Against 10, Animal House, which, Animal House was in that weak-ass 1978 year. It ended up winning, right? The
I
year.
think so.
It won the year.
It did indeed.
Ostensibly 2 comedies here, although Up in the Air is more of a drama than Animal House is. But let's talk about Up in the Air. I know this is you guys' jam. I like it as well.
Love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Somebody said something on Twitter the other day about, because it was when I recast The Martian and I put Anna Kendrick in it, and somebody was like giving me shit about saying she was a good actress. And I don't fight on Twitter very much anymore, if at all, because nothing good is ever going to come of that.
Never does.
In my head, I was like, she was Oscar nominated for Up in the Air. And that was like 2008, 2007, whenever that. No, it was 2009.
Yeah, it was actually it might have been 2010.
Oh, you're right. I think it was.
But yeah, she was nominated, and rightfully so, in this movie.
Yeah, she's fantastic, and she has a great arc. She's the wonderkin that the company's just hired. She's got all these new ideas. She wants to, put. What's awesome about her plan to start doing all these telecommunication firings instead of flying people all over the world is that I can totally see why she came up with this. We're going to save all this money on hotels and airfare, yada yada. But what a terrible idea!
Yeah,
like what a truly terrible idea. And by the end of it, I think she's realized that and she's moved on to other things. But this is obviously George Clooney's movie, not hers. But she makes a nice foil for him, I think.
He's got you almost don't think about the whole convention speeches that he makes.
Yeah.
This what's in your backpack?
Yeah.
Which is a little bit ham-handed unless you've been to one of those speeches where like, do you feel the straps digging into your shoulders and stuff like that? And you're like, oh yeah, okay, I've seen this type of speech before. But he starts off with that, and then he's this character that is completely shut off, and you're like, there's no breaking this dude down until he gets into that relationship, and you really, to me at least, when I was watching this, I wasn't ready for that whole almost downward spiral that he goes into, and really bottoms out towards the end when he gets the 10 million mile thing,
to where he doesn't even want it anymore,
exactly,
almost, because he says, how long I've thought about what I would say in this moment, and Sam, what's his name? Beef's what's
Elliot.
Yeah. He's like, what did you want to say? And he's like, I don't remember.
Yeah.
Because he's lost all of his inspiration for that. But you're right. He's very intentionally closed off.
Yeah.
But you see flashes. Like when he takes her to the wedding, I cringe every time because it's so well executed. But when they're coming out after the rehearsal dinner and he says to his sister, I was wondering, I didn't know if you had anybody to walk you down the aisle. And she's like, oh, well, my husband's dad's going to do it.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, okay. But he's like, yeah, these people, like his other sister even says, you basically don't exist to us.
Yeah.
But then he does want to help. He gets to talk him back into, Danny McBride back into getting married. And so there's heart there. You can tell he wants some kind of connection, but he's so fixed on this life plan of not having any relationships and human ties to weigh me down that it takes a lot to pull him out of that.
There's a lot symbolized by that 10 million miles, isn't there? It sounds like this awesome goal that he wants to get at and everything, to get this like amazing freaking card that doesn't matter really in your life at all. But you look back at all the, his job is not a great job. Like it is specifically to deliver pain to other people and basically say, you're fired. You no longer work here anymore. That's your life.
And in small markets, too. It's not like he's going all the time to L.A. and New York and all that stuff. It's Omaha and Des Moines.
Yes.
Nothing against you people.
Well,
if you're,
and obviously, that there's no like, that's not on accident that it's these type of towns either. That's just to go to show. These are basically saying these are everyday normal people who don't live in big cities and everything. But yeah, 10 million miles, that's basically his life. He has been flying around telling people they're fired. That's their job. It also shows what kind of like, sort of crash landing he's had. You're talking about his relationship with his sister. They don't really care one way or the other that he's there. And also the relationship he has with Vera Farmiga basically says, you could have had something like Vera Farmiga a few years ago if you had just assessed your life a little bit better. Instead, now you want her someone who's like her way too late, and her, she was probably looking for somebody like you, but now you're way too late, and that is sort of the message of this movie, and it's sad message, but it does it very effectively.
Well, yeah, I think the message is that your relationships are super valuable.
Yeah.
And they do come with baggage and they do weigh you down, but that's what makes life worth living. Like he's so, I wouldn't even say he's depressed on that plane. I think he's just empty.
Yep.
Right? Like he's not feeling much of anything at all anymore.
He's gotten everything he wanted.
Yep. And it's unfulfilling. And the one thing that he decided late he wanted, he didn't get, and it was crushing.
Yeah.
So my point is, don't be like Clooney.
Yeah.
Right. And also what I find funny, and I get the symbolic nature of this, but he all movie he's hoping to speak at this like Globocon, or it's like the big convention for motivational speakers, and he gets invited and he goes and he talks for 2 minutes, and that's when he goes, I need to go to Chicago right now to see Vera Farmiga.
Right.
And I get that he's essentially telling the audience he's done with this philosophy. I can't even say this one more time because I have these feelings for her. But man, you just shot your public speaking career right in the toilet. just go through the motions one more. Make up a speech on the spot that's new or something. But you're not even going to get paid for that.
Yeah.
Let's also not forget the sort of the meaning of him going around with this poster board of his sister and her future husband, and taking pictures of it's one of those things. They may not be going to the places that you're going. Yeah. But they have a life. Yeah. And it's one of those type of like things that you throw in movies and you're just like, that's kind of funny and quirky. It means a lot more than you think it does.
I love that moment when they're at the rehearsal dinner and he sees the board with all the pictures, because it's not just him. Several family members and friends have been sending in pictures. And he goes, what made you want to do something so, and you just know he's going to say something accidentally mean. Yeah. Like meaningless or stupid. And Vera Farmiga cuts him off and says, what does she say? Accomplished or substantial.
Oh, yeah.
And saves his ass. Yeah. And then you just watch them light up when they're talking about how much they like this idea. Yeah, they encapsulate all the things he's been rejecting.
Yeah.
And he really feels it there.
Yeah.
Good movie.
That relationship is totally believable, though. The Vera Farmiga and George Clooney, to say nothing about how they interact with Anna Kendrick, which is almost paternal and maternal.
Yeah.
But like, I love that scene when they're in their hotel rooms, their respective hotel rooms, and they're texting back and forth, and they're like, one of them is like, I can't sleep, or it's Vera Farmiga saying, I can't sleep, and he's like, well, I might as well just rub one out. And she's like, way ahead of you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's that kind of like rapport that they have almost immediately.
Yeah, it is almost immediate.
Awesome.
And they connect over their shared, basically, travel perks. Yeah. Right? They go from one little conversation to spilling out their wallets and showing their cards and everything. Yeah, it's. I think it's a movie that it's trying to remind you not to focus too much on goals that don't mean anything, right? Like, and I think you could make the argument that films may be talking about money. 10 million miles, $10 million. We all have aspirations, collections, things we're trying to get that may not ultimately fulfill us as much as just sitting down and having a talk with somebody you care about.
All right, so can we hype this matchup against Up in the Air with Animal House? Which
no.
Yeah. The only thing I'm going to say here is that Animal House, without Animal House, you don't have 95% of the comedies that come out.
Correct.
You don't have most of the 80s, in fact, I don't think, without Animal House. We went into this, I think, starting off saying culturally relevant and all this other stuff was sort of our criteria. As far as impact, I think Animal House has a way greater reach than Up in the Air does.
Yeah, I agree.
So it's one of those things where, it's obviously not going to be a dramatic choice by the end of this. We all know where this is going. Yes. But let's talk about Animal House a little bit, and just the fact that it's just this is the way you make comedies. They make it, and they made them good. They when they started copying Animal House, just like every time you try to make copies of something, they always cherry picked things out of what encapsulates Animal House. It's the nudity and the raunchiness. So like everything became just that afterwards, you know, and you forget that the reason why Animal House works and everything is because there's actual characters in it, even though it's not high art, but it's, you know, it certainly has its place.
It does. I would love to hang out with this group of people from that period, from 78 to like 84.
The actors or the characters?
Well, no, the actors and the producers and things like that. First of all, this is...
and there's an 80% chance you might die hanging out with them.
Yeah, cocaine was
like
rampant.
The Harold Ramis and John Landis and everything. This is also a father-son matchup.
Yes, it is.
Ivan Reitman was the producer on this, and Jason Reitman directed Up in the Air.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But no, I mean, the stories that come out of things like this and Caddyshack and you know, that whole group, yes, you probably die, but you'd have a hell of a time before it. And Belushi, man, when you go back and watch this movie, I love this movie. You go back and look at it, it's almost like a silent performance from John Belushi's character. You know, he's got the few like little quips, and he's got the big speech about like, you know, where he's like, "It's not over until we say it's over." And you know, but the rest of it is just like downing an entire bottle of Jack Daniels, or he's got those eyebrows going when he's, you know, looking in the window and everything. It's so much fun, and it's hilarious, and it makes me miss what could have been the rest of his career.
Yeah, and in general, this was like the sort of the top of the heap for National Lampoons and all their writers, who, by the way, are way more influential than you probably give them, than anybody gives them credit for. But like a lot of the people who came out of that were just, that's the whole 80s and 90s there. Like like those guys were really sharp, really knew what they were doing as far as the magazine that they were making and everything, and it spilled over into movies. That's so influential. But anyway, it has to go up against Up in the Air. So who's first on this?
So that'd be Jeremy.
Up in the Air.
Up in the Air, it's Junior Birdman.
I'm not sure how much I like Animal House. And I think part of the problem is that I never had that kind of college experience.
Yeah, it's probably very different from the
you know what I mean? Like, because I went to a very small Christian liberal arts college, boys and girls in separate dorms and chapel twice a week, and there were no fraternities, period, let alone raging fraternity parties or fights with other frats and whatnot. And so it's so disconnected from my reality that, you know, it's just hard for me to connect. And I do see the comedy there. I don't hate it. I just don't like it very much. And I love Up in the Air. And I know Up in the Air is probably going to go up against something like fucking Die Hard next or something. It doesn't stand a chance. But this is another one of those movies that kind of gets into my soul a little bit. And it's just really stays with me. And one of the best gut punches ever. So Up in the Air.
It does have a great gut punch.
Yep.
I never was in a fraternity or anything like that. I had a very different college experience that was debaucherous, but in a like outside of the academics of it. But
debaucherous.
Yeah, exactly. I having said that, I think you're absolutely right. Animal House is so influential on not only comedy but the performances. The Elmer Bernstein did the score, which is a great score. I love that guy's stuff. I agree, though. Up in the Air has so much more heft. It's got 100% more Young MC than Animal House.
It does. Young MC was probably 14 when that movie came out.
What was crazy in that convention scene with Young MC is George Clooney like going, "Bust a move!" It's like, you're supposed to be cool over there. Just do that. But man, Anna Kendrick, the way that she goes through that whole thing and the breakdown in her character, which she realizes what, you know, the weight of all of her stuff and her perfectly planned life is not going out the way that it should, is so great. All these performances are terrific.
Oh, man, the moment when... Okay, so they walk into this company 2/3 of the way through or so, and the teleconferencing is already set up. and Jason Bateman, the boss, is there on the screen. Hey there! And George Clooney's like, we're here to do some real damage. What are you fucking around with this video thing for? And they end up having to go through it. And of course, the guy freaks out. What the fuck? And of course, that's when they find out he's in the next room over.
Yeah.
And the look on her face when that guy leaves and she turns to her paper and picks up the pencil and hesitates because she sees there's like 100 goddamn names on that thing.
Yeah.
And she crosses one out and puts the pencil down. And it's just crushing because you know what she's feeling, but she's still projecting this. I can do this. I'm going to do this. And then she presumably does 100 more times.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I tell you, I was going to say Animal House until that right there. No, I'm just kidding. No, I was going to say Up in the Air all the way on this. You know, we can't, I mean, obviously, as far as cultural relevance and all that type of thing, there's no comparison on Animal House. But as far as movie and depth and whatever, all the other things that we said and everything, obviously this beats Animal House. And not that my vote mattered anyway, but we'll make that unanimous and
I
move
like
on.
your vote.
So we're 2 unanimous votes in, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, look at us. Cruising through the East.
I
Well,
wonder if the next one will be.
This
though.
will be a crazy one, I think. Number 8, The Dark Knight versus number 9, Rocky.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. So The Dark Knight.
Uh-huh.
I'll never forget watching this movie for the first time. It finally, for me, legitimized comic book movies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There had been a few good ones. Spider-Man 2 was high on my list. Iron Man's still high on my list. Both of those are still high on my list.
Mm-hmm.
But this was the first time I had actually seen a movie that said that I said, this is a film.
Yeah.
Like when you go back and forth between movie or film, you know, that's the pretentious bullshit. The Dark Knight was the first time I was like, that's a film, you know, and the, you know, the opening of this, the Heath Ledger Joker that puts all these balls in the air that basically Batman's like sitting there like catching and making it's like watching Batman run around in a Looney Tunes cartoon where he's like where somebody's got like a broom full of dishes, you know, they're like going back and forth and everything, and he's got to catch each one with like you know 50 arms or whatever.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that because Joker just keeps on like being one step ahead and 2 steps ahead and everything. It was the first time I really felt like a comic book movie was legit.
I agree.
Yeah. And it's one of the best examples I think we're ever going to get of an actor exceeding what we thought their range was with Heath Ledger as the Joker. Because I remember when he was announced, it was the same reaction as Ben Affleck announced as Batman, and same reaction when Jared Leto was announced. Like, what? That guy? And then he just fucking hit it out of the park.
The balls on this guy.
I'm telling you, I want to know what he did to get the job.
I don't know. At this point, Joker was synonymous with Jack Nicholson.
Mm-hmm.
And rightfully so. Like, his performance in Tim Burton's Batman was iconic, and it still is. It is a complete different take on Joker than Heath Ledger's was. But for him to just say, like, I'm going to make this my own. Not only Jack Nicholson's performance, but this is a character that's been out there since the 60s or before, you know, and he just says, I'm going to do this. And it was amazing I remember when they released the first photo, I don't know if it was on a poster or if it was just like a photo that they sent, a production photo of him with those stitched up cheeks and everything. And it was terrifying.
Yeah.
I was like, what? This is like a horror movie.
Well,
really?
there was that behind frosted glass, why so serious scrawled on it with his face behind it. It's so fucking sinister looking.
Yeah.
And then the performance is just, here's the thing. I believe that character through and through. And I believe chaos is basically the only thing that motivates him.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's hard to sell. I think a lot of actors, and he does a lot of extreme things in here, right? He came up with the whole lip smacking with his, you know, and he's got a pretty over-the-top voice, but his sinisterness doesn't come from acting crazy.
Yeah.
Right? It comes from the actions he takes. Like the pencil thing with the mobster is way more frightening than anything that comes out of his mouth in that scene.
Yeah.
I may have been the only one that I know that thought that was going to be a good choice when they said Heath Ledger was going to be Joker.
Oh, yeah.
I was very like, when I heard that, I said, no, he's going to be great in this. And mainly, I didn't look at what his past work informed us as far as how his Joker would be. I just looked at him as what kind of actor he was. And like, if you're going to put an actor like that in this role, he's going to be able to do this. Brokeback Mountain is a movie that I don't know if you would, you're not going to extrapolate Joker out of what he does in Brokeback Mountain.
If you do, it's a weird Joker.
Yeah. But I do believe that his performance in that movie is such that, it's way different. If you've got prejudices going into that movie, he blows all those prejudices away.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
got that big old deep voice and Texas accent. Yeah.
Well, especially the scene where he tells the two rednecks to stop, swearing in front of his children and all that. I think in the past, that's easy to make a victim out of your character in a scene like that, where, he's like, stop that. And then he gets his ass beat or whatever. Instead, he's the one doing the ass beating.
Yeah. He's got rage.
Yeah, exactly. And I knew that after that, I was like, if you put an actor like that in this role, he's going to find a way to make it work. And that's exactly what I thought. Now, yes, was there anything in his filmography that said he's the Joker, man? It's not like Nicholson where you can see all that,
Right. Yeah.
whatever. But I did know he was a capable performer, at least. I did not know it was going to be this good, but I did know he was going to do well.
I'm with you, man. I may not ever forget walking out of this movie. It's one of the only movies since 2000 that I've actually sat through the credits for, because I was just still smiling and absorbing what I had just seen. It's just one of those rare times where my hopes are so high for a movie that it's basically impossible to, meet my expectations, but the movie then supersedes my expectations. Yeah. And it's so rare for that to happen. And then, of course, Dark Knight Rises came along and took that feeling away.
Yep.
But, The Dark Knight is great. Somebody asked me the other day when I was talking on Twitter about Logan not being the greatest superhero movie ever made or whatever. Well, what do you think is? And I said, I always have this conversation. It always comes down to The Incredibles, Spider-Man 2, and Dark Knight. Mm-hmm. And somebody threw out Unbreakable, and I guess that counts. Yeah. It's not a comic book movie, but it's a superhero movie. But I just think it's fantastic. It's operatic. It's epic.
Yeah. If there's anything that I don't like about this movie, it's that final rage montage of Harvey Dent and Two-Face going on his thing. To me, it doesn't necessarily detract from the movie, but I feel like it wasn't completely necessary. Nobody's going to be coming out of there talking about Two-Face and Harvey Dent. They're all going to be talking about the conflict between Batman and Joker. And the fact that they put it in this context, which is now revisited, but this context of like, you need me, we're two sides of the same coin, not to get into the Two-Face analogy, but like, that part of it is my least favorite part of the movie. It's not terrible, but it's just not, it doesn't hold up to the rest.
You start getting multiple character syndrome, just like comic book movies do, and it starts getting to the point where, okay, can we just focus on the other stuff? Can't we just leave it at the end of the movie where he's, you see him as Two-Face and maybe he becomes the next villain in the next movie, instead of like going through all this stuff, like, flipping the coin and killing all these guys for revenge. Yeah. I see what you're saying on that. It's almost like they had a model of like what Two-Face was going to look like, which is terrifying.
Yeah, it is.
And they said, we can't sit on this. We have to do it now.
Well, I agree and disagree. I do think that scene is one of the less necessary. I do think it's an important setup for the very final shot where Batman decides, okay, well, you pin this on me. I killed Harvey Dent, and takes off, because I think that's important to Batman in general and to this trilogy's Batman. But I think there's more reason for Harvey to be there. Like that scene with him and Joker in the hospital is mesmerizing.
Oh, that's great.
Where Joker basically takes him from angry and wanting to kill Joker to kind of buying into Joker's chaos philosophy. I'm riveted every time that scene comes on.
Especially when he grabs the gun and puts it right on his forehead.
Yeah, because he doesn't care. He really doesn't.
Well, and to clarify, I'm not saying that all the Two-Face stuff that we see especially in that scene, and then the fact that he dies, those can stay in there. It's the whole trip that he
Going
takes
through
afterwards.
all the things. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where it becomes sort of unnecessary. We could still have him die by the end of it. We could still have the Heath Ledger thing. We just, we need to like cut out some of this. The Eric Roberts scene in the limo and everything. It's
that and like when he's taking the shot and it's dribbling out of his mouth and all that stuff.
Yeah. But
dropping me from this height won't kill me. I'm counting on it.
All right, so The Dark Knight goes up against Rocky. This is an all-timer.
Jesus.
It is.
Jesus.
I said earlier in another podcast that I knew Rocky as Rocky 4. And I knew that's what Rocky was to me.
Yeah.
For the longest time. And then I finally, said, all right, I'm going to watch the first Rocky. Even though by Rocky 4, because you've seen so many montages,
You've seen half the
you know
movie.
exactly how Rocky is going to end. So like, it was like stunning to pop this movie in and watch it. And it was like, whoa, this is like taking its time. It's character building.
Yeah.
It's got this thing with him and Adrian, and then he's basically like, having to like, get Paulie's permission, alcoholic Paulie, who by Rocky 4 is like some lovable, whatever, which is total bullshit. Like when you watch the first Rocky, you're like, that's who fucking Paulie is.
Yeah.
In Rocky 4, he's like comic relief.
Paulie's a terrible person.
Yes, he is.
He abuses his sister.
Mm-hmm.
He is, he's terrible. He's awful. And, he's drinking all the time. The scenes between him and Adrian are kind of hard to watch. In fact, this is a great movie. I love this movie so much. It's such a departure from what you end up getting with Rocky 4. But Talia Shire plays Adrian not nearly what she becomes later on. She is almost mute. She's so anxious. She works in this pet store. She can't really talk or engage. She's under this abusive umbrella of Paulie's like basically parentage, and she's terrified of everything. And there's a couple of parts in there when Rocky starts dating her and they go back to his place and everything where like that gets a little bit uncomfortable.
Yeah.
He's like, we're gonna do this. It's like, okay.
Can you give me Stallone having an orgasm?
I think he just did. Well, it's like, yeah, when they're at the apartment and everything, and Paulie's like, he's like, you already went to bed with him, and then you're busted. You're not a virgin anymore, and all that, and like, you're like, come on, man, God, what a dick he is. And then Rocky 4, he's like laughable, but,
hanging out with the robot,
right? But what Rocky then does is it sets up a great hyped boxing match, where you have him and he's got his lo-fi, like he doesn't have any of the super rich stuff that Apollo Creed does. Apollo Creed, of course, isn't taking this seriously at all. He's just like looking for the publicity and all that. But seeing him on TV is great, like basically calling him out. And they make this whole thing July 4th in Philadelphia and everything. It's like this big like hyped event, but you see Rocky working and he's like punching meat in the freezer, and he's like running all over Philadelphia all the way up to the library and all this other type of stuff. And it's like, man, this guy, Apollo better like take this guy seriously. If he saw this, this might take this seriously. It might not last 15 rounds.
Oh, I love those. I know they're cliche at this point, but those training montages of him running and the score and everything. And I've run up those steps, by the way, to the Philadelphia Public
Is that the
Library.
most recreated movie moment in America?
Probably so. I mean, because I ran up because fuck it, I was in Philadelphia, and as I was winded and walking back down, like I saw all these people going up there.
Yeah, it is. It's easy to say, well, because these things are so like emulated, mimicked, and everything, it's lost its power in some way. It doesn't. It's the first to do it.
Yeah,
and then and it's done well. Yeah, it's terrific. And then by the time they get to the boxing, I mean, it's just great stuff. He's got great scenes with Burgess Meredith in this too. Burgess Meredith has that great, like he doesn't want want any part of this, and then finally he does. He's groveling to Rocky, like it's like, and he's like, oh, you might need a manager or something, you know, and like, and then you realize that he's really, this is his last chance to do something good, and Rocky's like, you know, you had your chance, you know, blah blah blah, and runs off, and this is like great scene in between, you know, for them too, but. All that, the boxing and everything is just great. It gets you like it's riveting.
Yes, it is.
So we have a problem.
We definitely do.
Yeah, Burgess Meredith, also the voice of the Penguin from the old Batman television show.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. Going up against a Batman movie.
Connections.
Yeah.
I like it.
Well, you go first, don't you there, man?
I do. Yeah. I'm going to go with Rocky. Rocky, this whole kind of thing started, we've talked about this site for a long time, Flickchart. And Flickchart puts movies up against movies, and that's what we've got here. And what happened when I was doing that is that I got Rocky as my favorite movie of all time.
Wow.
Over and over and over and over and over again. Because every time I watch it, I'm reminded, again, yes, it does take its time. It's so well written by Sylvester Stallone. And every part of it, Carl Weathers, Burgess Meredith, Talia Shire, all these guys, they get it. It's like a 70s movie that just holds up to repeated viewings. And, man, I love it. I love The Dark Knight. Certainly, I think it is the best superhero movie of all time. I think in my opinion, it's even better than The Incredibles. But it may just be that little tacked-on coda that I was talking about that puts it just slightly below Rocky for me. So that's my pick.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a miracle Rocky got made too. Stallone wrote the screenplay, and he wanted to be the actor in it, and he was a nobody.
Yeah.
And to you know, it was one of those type of things where like he didn't even want to. It wasn't going to be made if he wasn't going to be the main guy. I don't know if I've decided on
it's a rough matchup.
I don't know if I've decided on this one. The opening of The Dark Knight and towards the end of The Dark Knight are some of the greatest things I've seen in movies in a while. I mean, in this past 20 years or whatever. I guess there's enough bad about Dark Knight that I'm like, the Rocky, I don't know if there's anything like I can point at that says this is not good.
Yeah.
There's not much to it that says I mean, I think The Dark Knight's a way more exciting movie than Rocky.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Rocky's got more emotional depth.
Yep.
I'm going to go with Rocky.
Oh! No! Wow. That's a fucking upset, even though it's an 8 and 9, right? That's a fucking upset right there.
I'm upset.
I'm in a glass case of emotion.
I respect your decision. I don't want to. I feel personally responsible. I'm voting The Dark Knight, damn it. Doesn't matter, but I'm going down with the ship. I'm going to represent.
This is an impossible pick.
It is.
It's impossible for me. Like, this is another one where you go through several different types of criteria all at once. Emotional weight, Rocky. Exciting, Dark Knight.
Yeah. Tail of the tape.
Yeah. What was the other criteria I was going through here?
Cultural relevance.
Cultural relevance, which is cultural relevance is about even probably. I don't know. That is just an impossible pick.
That's a rough one.
I'm sorry, Batman.
And I know that's going to piss people off, but at the same time, I'm sure there's some Rocky fans out there.
Those people that are pissed off should go back and watch Rocky, because it's probably been a minute since you've seen it. Go back and watch it again.
But is Batman in that movie?
By the way,
this is the first one that has truly crushed me.
By the way, that was the best reaction when I said Rocky. Jeremy looked like he was about to die.
I was sitting here going, I think he's leaning Rocky. Don't lean Rocky.
Yeah.
I think he's leaning Rocky.
I couldn't. There's enough silly about The Dark Knight that eventually you have to say, look, you have a solid movie here that's just almost nothing is bad with it. There's nothing wrong. The Dark Knight's got some flaws here and there.
Yep.
Even though I love scenes in it that are amazing, there's still enough in it that's just I don't know. It doesn't have the same consistent quality that Rocky does.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing that really pushes Rocky over this.
Yeah.
They're the equal movies.
Oh, absolutely.
I think the Joker could beat Rocky's ass. Especially if he has his knife shoes and his dogs.
In a fist fight with you?
Well,
Sounded like Scooby-Doo.
So good thing for you on Twitter is that all the hatred that you'll for this pick will be towards Barrett and I.
That's
Barrett
just
and me,
deflected.
That's true.
and you can say, "Look, I voted Dark Knight."
I caught some of this with the whole sideways thing, like
Yeah.
when we beat Goodfellas. So
L.A. Confidential.
LA Confidential. yeah.
And yeah, that devastated me as well. I don't think it's as much as it's not nearly the hard. I don't think it's nearly as hard as this one though.
Yeah.
The Dark Knight. The thing about it, I think, also is just that it's more recent, even though it's now 9 years old. Can you believe that shit? And it's sort of like has its fingerprints in a lot of the comic book movies we're seeing now, where the darkness and everything, well, especially Logan and all that. It's again, it's not to diminish the Dark Knight. It just went up against a tough film
Sorry,
there.
Batman.
Yep.
And I'm sorry as well, because I adore The Dark Knight, and it's got a lot of relevance for me. If you listen to the podcast, I mean, that's one of my all-time projection feats was The Dark Knight. In fact, it was the first time I had ever run movies like that. It was the first time I'd ever run an IMAX movie.
Oh,
it was a lot of things about The Dark Knight that personally hit me, because it's just one of those type of movies. But I can't pick against Rocky there, unfortunately.
Ain't gonna be no rematch.
All right, so now we have the East region finished, and we're going to go through.
Did we do 4 already?
We have.
Yeah.
Wow. We're kind of moving a little bit today.
The Up in the Air and the Animal House didn't take too long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So our matchups in the East region in the second round are now Children of Men versus Rocky.
Aha.
And we saved you on that one. Children of Men versus Dark Knight.
Yeah, that would have been hard.
That would have been
Yeah.
brutal.
That would have been fucking hard. I'm glad I don't know what the potential matchup is when we're making up our.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm very careful not to look at that myself.
Yeah, me too.
We also have Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind versus Do the Right Thing.
That's going to be
Wow.
a fucking hard ass
gosh.
decision right
so
there.
brutal. Then we have one that we've already made that decision on. There Will Be Blood versus No Country for Old Men.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Damn it.
And then we have Up in the Air versus City of God.
Yeah.
That rounds
Damn it!
out.
All my favorites are going down.
I know, man.
That's
This bracket is a bitch.
It really is.
Oh, Jesus.
Jesus.
All right, so we're going to be talking about Nature Box again.
Oh, yeah.
We can't stop talking
That's one of my
about
favorite
Can't stop.
topics.
Can't stop.
Absolutely.
So my wife has a more adventurous palate than I do. So I took a few risks with our Nature Box order. I got these salt and pepper lentil loops.
Uh-huh.
And I got these yucca chips.
Mhm.
Right? No idea what she's going to think. She freaking loves them both.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
she said the yucca chips taste exactly like the potato chip. And the lentil loops, I guess they're made with part potato and lentil, so they kind of have a potato-y kind of thing going on.
They have awesome, like the zesty nacho cheese curls. These aren't your typical like potato chips or like things that are all greasy and nasty and everything. And just makes you feel good about snacking, because you're going to do it anyway. You might as well do it healthy and have it delivered straight to your door and everything.
Yeah.
Well, and we've talked before about the popcorn that these
Yeah,
guys do.
baby.
And there's so many different varieties of popcorn. What we got in there? We've got the spicy buffalo. What is it?
The sweet and spicy buffalo popcorn.
We have the sweet and spicy buffalo popcorn that is awesome. And there's also the other popcorn.
Oh, the white cheddar and caramel popcorn.
Yeah, the white cheddar and caramel popcorn is
My
amazing
jam,
too.
yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Those things you can you can watch a whole movie with those.
You know what I like? I like the nuts. I freaking love the nuts.
How? Yeah, exactly. How can you not like nuts?
Oh man, creme brulee peanuts.
Oh, those things are the awesome.
Sriracha cashews. I don't know if that's actually a thing or something.
Sriracha cashews? That'd be awesome if it wasn't. We're pimping snacks that don't exist.
Yeah.
Make sure you get some berry butter bars.
Yeah, like
Funnel Fairy Buddy Bar.
no, Jeremy. We create Nature Box products just by saying it here on the SinCast.
They're going to hear this and they're going to go, shit, we better make that.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm a pretzel guy. I've talked 2 or 3 times now, I think, about the sourdough cheddar pretzels.
Oh, those are so good.
Mhm.
Which I can't even look at a normal pretzel now. Right?
It has ruined you.
It really has, because it's the combination of it being made, because I've had sourdough pretzels before that were just pretzels but made with sourdough, but then you add that cheddar in there, and I like salty stuff, and I don't know what I don't know what they're doing, but it's salty as a beast, and I love it, and I ate the whole bag in like a day and a half.
Nice.
I had a Homer Simpson moment with the sourdough pretzels that came here, because you remember the episode where he's like, he finds the last peanut and he's like, the last peanut that has all the salt of your dearly departed brothers. And I got to the end of that sourdough pretzel thing, and it was just like that.
Anyway, so are we allowed to talk about what's coming? Are we allowed to talk about the fact that we are working with NatureBox on a Cinemasins curated box, or
Yes.
do they want us to wait until
Do it.
it's ready to go? That's coming. We're going to hand select, the 3 of us, the snacks that will come in a box, and you'll be able to go to naturebox.com/SinCast and buy the box that we picked.
Yeah.
That we put you could be able to eat the same snacks that we love and are talking about like right now.
And listen, we've got good taste. All right.
Yes,
So-
we do.
And you're listening,
trust
so
us.
so do you.
Right.
Yeah.
That's correct.
So do us a favor, go to naturebox.com/SinCast. That's where you get the 50% off offer. It'll tell them that we sent you. Try them, check them out. You won't be sorry, promise.
Yeah, no, we've got a lot more people since the last sponsored podcast that have come on Twitter and said, I've tried it. I've got a couple more pictures this past week. I love seeing that stuff. If you guys take the plunge with us and enjoy these healthy snacks, send me the pics of what you decided to get and tell me which ones you like the most and whatnot.
Okay, so we're going to begin the South round, the South region, first round, and we have our very first one is Spielberg versus Spielberg.
Oh, yeah.
no.
We have number 1 Schindler's List versus 16 Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
That's a matchup you think about often.
Yes, exactly. I'm always trying to figure out a way to make something better than Schindler's List. So that really this whole March Madness thing, but especially this type of matchup shows you how impactful Spielberg is.
Yeah, no kidding.
And how different he can be.
Yeah.
To make something as a searing drama like this versus a beautifully made alien spectacle.
Yeah.
Wow. So we have Schindler's List here. I've probably seen Close Encounters way more than I've seen Schindler's List.
Me too.
But let's talk about them for a minute. Schindler's List, is it possibly the most, important movie that we've had in the past 30 years?
Yes.
I think it's got to be up
I don't
there.
know if there's anything like, you have stuff that's socially conscious, like Do the Right Thing is in there in that conversation. I don't know. I think there's still a lot of people who just didn't know this went on.
I guarantee it, because it is so gruesome and so brutal that you just don't even think this is possible.
Well, I think I said when we were doing the years discussion that I never had any visuals like this to go. All I ever had was text in a textbook and maybe a picture or two here and there, and the picture would be of a striped uniform or the outside of Auschwitz or what have you. But this was the first time I was seeing sort of the visceral actuality of what went on. I was familiar with Anne Frank and had read that play, but even that is, the concentration camps are far away from what's going on in this book, or play, I suppose. It may be the most important movie that's been made. And I think it was a big home run for Spielberg from a creative standpoint, from an artistic standpoint. I think it really took him from, this guy makes magic films to this is one of our finest filmmakers ever.
Well, we're going back over the same territory. We were talking about Sofia Coppola and Cameron Crowe on a much different level, doing something very, very personal.
Yeah.
You could tell how personal this is to Steven Spielberg. Not only did he do the movie so brilliantly, but he started this media, and I don't mean this in a pejorative way, this onslaught of awareness of the Holocaust. And he was on HBO and he was doing miniseries and things like that, doing things that this was a jumping off point for conversation in addition to being a brilliant movie.
I think you're right. It ushered in a new era of awareness. Now there's still fringe wackos out there. There's always going to be fringe wackos. But I think my generation and after became so much more aware
Yep.
than we ever had been.
And let's not forget also, I mean, being socially conscious and being a great socially conscious movie is not enough. It has to be well done. And here we have performances across the board that are amazing. I would think Liam Neeson probably would win in almost every other year in this. He was going up against Tom Hanks in Philadelphia, which is kind of a hard movie to go up against, a performance that's hard to go up against. This is my introduction to Liam Neeson, really. I mean, he had a pretty good career before this and everything.
Darkman,
yeah. Give me the fucking elephant. So it was the first time I had ever seen him in a movie like this, and he just owns it. Ben Kingsley, of course, is fantastic. Ray Fiennes, terrifying.
Yep.
Oh my God. When he comes into the factory for a surprise inspection, because you can tell he kind of always suspects something's up with Schindler. And he gets to that old man, and he's like, "What are you making?" He's like, "Hinges. Make me a hinge." And he pulls out a stopwatch. And the guy's like, "Okay," and hop to it. And he gets over there and he starts making a hinge. And I'm like, all right, he's going to do it. He's going to keep his job. And the guy's like, if you can go that fast, why are there only a dozen of them over here? You should have a whole box full of them. Takes him out to execute him.
Yep.
And then the gun jams.
Yeah.
And so he walks off in disgust.
Right.
He is one of the most terrifying. We were talking about how terrifying Anton Chigurh is in No Country for Old Men, or even There Will Be Blood. This is, I think, more terrifying than either one of those.
Well, the first time we see his character is he's just on the balcony with a rifle.
Yeah.
We see him in the car coming in before that, but you're right. That's the first kind of like scene for him.
And he's shirtless, and he's just sitting there like stretching with this thing, and he's just picking out random people to shoot from his balcony.
Yeah. Like it's Grand Theft Auto or some shit.
Yeah, it really is kind of like that. But there, you know, the scene too where like they put all of his workers on the train, and he starts spraying water in there to hell, and like, you know, he's like, "You're even cooler than me, Schindler.
Yeah.
You give them too much hope," you know, and all that. You know, it's like, I mean, the guy is just ridiculously evil, unbelievable. And it's first time we had really seen, I don't know, other than like Hitler type of performances or whatever, we had ever seen underlings, sort of like, maybe not the first time, but it was certainly one of the first.
Well, and this is a real dude who had this reputation for being this evil. Like, it's not like what Spielberg fictionalized some. I think that's part of why he's so fucking scary, is that, you know, this shit was actually happening.
Yeah. No, that's why this is so impactful. Cinematically, this would stick with you if it were completely out of ether. This would be a terrifying movie, although a heartwarming movie in some ways too. But like, the fact that this is not even ancient history.
Yeah.
This is recent history. People are still alive that experienced this. And to have that kind of context in it, when you see it, it just makes you probably have like a Schindler's List face when you're watching it, like a mix of disgust and like fear and angst, and where your face is all screwed up. At least mine was.
Yeah. Oh man, people were openly crying in the theater when I saw it. Of course, the couple next to me were openly, basically groping each other under their pants.
They were doing the Seinfeld thing.
Yeah, it's messed up.
Yeah, well, it was worse than that.
It was worse than that.
You know, there were genitals involved, and let's just say my date was crying, so not that I would have been making out with her had she not been crying. I was there for the movie. Most people were. Maybe the highest percentage of people crying in a movie I've been in ever. And again, it's sort of like, I'm about to make a really bad analogy, maybe worse than yours earlier.
Right?
It's sort of the way a lot of Christians reacted to Passion of the Christ. Being able to visualize suffering that you connect to in a way you never have before.
Yeah.
The black and white thing works great. I like the little touches of color, like the girl in the red jacket.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's heartbreaking when he's watching her run around aimlessly while they're rounding up everybody in the ghetto. Just a masterpiece, right? A masterclass in how to direct an awesome movie that makes people both sad and happy.
Yep, and you have John Williams, one of his most memorable scores in this.
Do you think so?
I think so.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, you can't hear that without thinking.
Oh yeah, no.
Schindler's List. Maybe other parts of it aren't nearly as good. Maybe that's what you're getting at. Maybe he's got one piece that's memorable.
I actually like that choral with the girl running around in the red jacket. That
yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I love the music.
And
I think it's
then
fantastic.
I'm going to totally screw up this Polish name here, but the cinematographer on this, Janusz Kaminski,
It sounded beautiful.
You're so awesome at Polish stuff.
he's now a legendary cinematographer, but the movie looks fantastic in black and white, and probably needed to be black and white to be honest, but.
Yeah, I agree.
Technically it's great too. It's not just the socially conscious stuff. That's it. And again, we're getting back to that. It's a great film in general.
Yeah, and like a lot of movies based on true people or true events, I'm sure there's some dramatization here that it's not going down the way it did in the real world.
Sure.
But I like that the movie doesn't shy away from showing you that Schindler's not that great of a guy, at least in the beginning, right? That girl comes for a job, gets ignored. She goes on, pinches her cheeks and puts on lipstick and wears a pretty dress. Then she gets an interview because he likes pretty girls and he cheats on his wife. In the beginning, it's really almost strictly a business thing for him because he can make more money this way.
Yep.
And slowly over time, obviously, he begins to care about these people and becomes attached to them in a way that is profound.
Yep.
Well, and I love those little touches too, where he goes in and he's like, it's Friday night, isn't it time for you to go home with your family and observe the Sabbath and all that? And then by the end of it also, he's like, I could have sold my car, I could have sold this watch, the ring and all this other stuff. I could have saved two more here, two more there. And that's how much the human life actually meant to him by the end of it. Is like, it doesn't seem like much. I could have saved about 6 more people or whatever. It means everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
It has to go up against Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Yeah. Wow.
Spielberg is just, he's just so great. What else can you say about this guy? I think he's the reason why most people our age watch movies, because most of the time when we were growing up, a lot of the stuff that he made was all the classic stuff that you would sort of your gateway movies.
Well, and even stuff that he didn't direct, like Back to the Future, he's super heavily involved in producing, and you can see and feel the Spielberg in the Back to the Future movies.
Yeah, it's strange because in the 80s, after he did Raiders and E.T. and even Temple of Doom and all that, he started trying to make these socially conscious type of movies or making more Oscar bait type movies.
Color
Purple, Empire of the Sun. And then he made that awful Always movie.
Yeah.
But
you didn't like Always at all?
Nah, maybe I should give it another chance. But I was like, I don't know.
Is that the one with John Goodman?
And Richard Dreyfuss and Holly Hunter.
I don't think I ever saw it.
It's certainly not great, but
but he had a weird time in the 80s.
It's
where he had he had a handful of big hits that he's known for mixed in with and The Color Purple's good and everything. I'm not downgrading it or anything. It's just that it was just a weird period of time for him. But Close Encounters of the Third Kind, I've always said it's just the wonder that it sort of emotes every time when those ships show up. We don't see that much anymore, and maybe it's because we're so advanced as far as seeing so many alien movies that seeing a ship come down isn't exciting anymore.
Yeah.
And in this one it really is, because they've sort of been teasing us the whole time.
Yeah.
Little cock tease ships.
They even got the helicopter tease where they think the ship is coming, but it turned out to be helicopter.
Yeah. But it's an incredible journey for this. We recently talked about this, the guy is like basically saying no to his family for this. Why don't you just believe me? Why don't you just go along on this? Why don't you just go on this horrible ride that I may not even be right about?
Yeah.
Why don't you just believe me?
Yeah.
So yeah, Close Encounters is a terrific film.
Well, Richard Dreyfuss really owes a tremendous amount to Steven Spielberg.
Between this and Jaws alone, that made his career.
Yeah, without him, he's had some good. Mr. Holland's Opus was fine.
It's funny you guys say that, because I think he won the Oscar this year, but it was for The Goodbye Girl, which I haven't seen. But I think in 1978, or it was not 77, but the next year.
Oh, really?
It was The Goodbye Girl. He won the Oscar.
Interesting.
So yeah, it's still, even though this was 75 and 77, I guess the very next one, people knew Dreyfuss enough that it's like, all right.
Yeah. I've never seen Richard Dreyfuss And besides something like What About Bob, where he's, overwrought and all that stuff, I really never seen him as good as when he's in a Spielberg film.
Yeah, he's really good in Close Encounters. He kind of holds it together, really, because you have to have a really strong performer in order for us to kind of want you to continue the journey that makes you leave your family behind, right? Because he's not a great guy in that sense.
No, Goodbye Girl was 1977, so it was the same year. But yeah, exactly. He's the glue in this movie. I mean, without him, then you have absolutely no movie. But I just love like all this sort of this globe trotting type of thing. They have to go down to like Africa or whatever and ask the tribe what they saw, and they're all singing that song and everything, and you don't know quite what it means yet. It's just that's the thing. It's just unlike every alien movie that has and E.T. I would exclude from this conversation, but like every alien movie you see after this, you don't get that sense of wonder. Everything about it is like, oh, it's established now. Aliens, don't worry about it, and there's no sense of wonder.
Which is so weird. That should be the easiest part. Yeah. You're interacting with an alien race for the first time. It should be all wonder, and then like maybe some fear about what they're going to do.
I mean, a little bit in Independence Day, they try to do that, but you've already seen the trailers at this point where they blow up everything, and it's not. So like while Independence Day does that whole like shadows of the ships going over the town and everything, you don't really get that sense of like, what could this be? Could they be friendly? Maybe they ain't friendly. As soon as they come into the world, they're not friendly. It has a very difficult task here.
Yes, it does.
To go up against Schindler's List. And what's our order? Is it me again? Yep. Schindler's List is going to win this one. And that's not a hard. It's not as hard as I really imagined it at first. I've seen Close Encounters way more. And I'll probably watch Close Encounters more than I watch Schindler's List after this. More. But Schindler's List is a way better movie on all the levels. So I'm going to go with that.
Yeah, can't fault the logic there. I might even say Close Encounters is my favorite movie having to do with aliens, at least until I watch Arrival a few more times.
Yeah.
I love it. I think that movie gives me more wonder than E.T. does.
Yeah.
It's just like comparing popcorn to a steak, right? There's not anywhere near as much sustenance in Close Encounters as there. It's mostly sugar. It's mostly air. It's awesome. All right. I like cotton candy, but you need nourishment. And if we're talking about what's the better film, I really don't think there's even any question that Schindler's List should win.
100% agree.
All right.
It's a beautiful, beautiful,
that
beautiful.
Was tidy.
Yeah.
And we didn't hurt any Batman feelings on that one.
We didn't.
If Schindler's List went up against The Dark Knight,
not going to happen now.
Yeah. Well, that would have been a championship anyway.
Yeah.
It would have had to have been a championship the way this bracket is going. But all right. So the 2 seed Pulp Fiction versus number 15 seed Stand By Me.
Wow.
Wow. So I don't know if there was a more impactful movie in the 90s than Pulp Fiction. It's weird though. I feel like it's a movie that a lot of people tried to emulate for a small period of time and failed. And we never really ever saw a movie that did it well, or I don't know if we saw a lot of movies try to be Pulp Fiction past the 90s.
Why couldn't they do it? I mean, this is not...
Because they're not Tarantino.
Yeah, but I mean, this is not rocket science. I guess it's the dialogue.
Who directed 2 Days in the Valley?
Yeah, I don't know.
Exactly. Who directed Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead?
Yeah. You got me on that one.
No idea. Who directed... No, that's my point, is that, like, Tarantino, love him or hate him, has talent. I think he goes to excess a little too often. But I probably prefer Jackie Brown a little bit to Pulp Fiction. But like you said, we'd never seen anything like this. We talked about this when we were discussing this year, and somehow Shawshank lost to Pulp Fiction. But it was just straight out of left field. Both the violence, the way these characters talked, the way they talked about normal shit, like the Royale with cheese and all that stuff, and foot massages. And, the out of sequence way that we're presented with some of these events, it was just like a shot of adrenaline to use something that happens in the actual movie.
Yeah.
Just get the fucking shot. I love it. I love it. You know, I had to put it up against Shawshank when we did the 1993 vote, but it's not like I'm going to sit here and say bad things about Pulp
It
Fiction.
was the 1994 vote.
Sorry, you're right. God damn it.
By the way, though, earlier I said Up in the Air might have been 2010, but you were right on 2009.
Well, there you go.
So-
We'll call it even there.
I'll call it even. Now, we are competing in this podcast.
Yes, it's you versus me
who's
versus
the
Barrett.
better person. Yeah, that's the thing. Pulp Fiction it had done it in such a way that by the time they get back to the diner, I was like, oh, Samuel Jackson's going to die in this or whatever, even though we saw his aftermath in the earlier clip or whatever. That's how effective that movie is and how different it is. I was like, oh, he's dead.
Yeah.
He's so dead. And you're like, oh, I didn't even think about.
You have to put all those pieces together, and it gets you to think about it for days and days and days afterwards, or years, really.
Yeah. It's Tarantino's sort of like trademark to sort of start with a scene that doesn't seem like much at all, and then just ramp it.
Mm-hmm.
The things that we love about Inglourious Bastards, just remember that, you know, the scene where they're in the bar and they're all playing the little, you know, the game with the cards on their foreheads and everything. You're like, oh, okay, that's a nice little whatever. Almost everything in Pulp Fiction is like this.
Mm-hmm.
They're you're talking about the Royale with cheese. They're talking about foot massages. They go in and Frank Whaley and his character and everything. He's like just sitting there like eating Big Kahuna burger, and Samuel Jackson's doing this funny little thing, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, it's just kind of playing around with him, all right. But it ramps up to this intense thing that's unforgettable. The same thing with John Travolta and Uma Thurman later. Where it just seems like an innocuous kind of like, all right, he's taking the big man's wife out, and his real decision here is whether or not he's going to sleep with her. Nope, that's not the real decision.
Is she going to die?
Yeah,
go home, jerk off, and that's all you're gonna do.
It's like, and it's like it's just. And then, the scene where they're in the diner doesn't seem they're just talking about whether or not they should even be doing this type of. Well, Samuel Jackson at least is sitting there saying, "I don't think I'm going to do this anymore," which is great. That great line later when Tim Roth actually does like rob it or whatever. And he's like, you do your boss's laundry, and he's like, when he wants it clean. He's like, sounds like a shit job. Funny, I was thinking the same thing. It's just dialogue that you can eat for days on this, and it's just
it is the dialogue.
Sewer rat may taste like pumpkin pie, but I never know because I never eat the filthy motherfucker.
It's not so hyper like kinetic to where like that becomes the shtick. It fits the characters so well.
It does.
And Jules Winfield is Jules Winfield. And what I love about that scene that you were talking about with Brad, is it Brett or Brad?
Believe me, I don't know what the subtitles say, but it's both. I fucking guarantee you.
Okay. Because
it's Brett, but Samuel L. Jackson says Brad.
Yeah.
There's no doubt in my mind.
Or he says Brad.
Yeah, but it's
it sounds
bratty.
like Brad.
Yeah. But when you start from when they're in the car and he's talking to Vincent Vega about, the differences between Europe and America and everything, and he's like, example.
Mm-hmm.
He's just so calm, be like, there's the one time where he breaks the facade, this tough guy thing, where it's like, they put on French fries, mayonnaise. It's like, God damn.
Yeah, man, I see him drowning in that shit.
It's like, yuck. But then he goes back to that reserved, and then you do not expect, until you see it obviously for the first time, you do not expect this huge monologue about Ezekiel 25:17 coming. I will strike down with fury.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's so great. And then the other thing that Tarantino does that no other director I've seen can do it in this type of thing is put a soundtrack to his characters.
Jesus.
One of the things that really gets me about Mia Wallace coming into the picture is that Dusty Springfield, Son of a Preacher Man.
Yeah.
Oh, it's perfect. And then you got Jungle Boogie at the beginning. You got the surf music. Everything just is fit in perfectly.
Yeah.
Great.
Absolutely. So it goes up against Stand By Me.
Yep.
Another great. This is a great movie, and I don't know if enough people talk about it to this day. Really,
Probably not.
obviously a great Rob Reiner movie, based on Stephen King, short The Body. But coming of age films are kind of hard to make. If you watch most coming of age movies, they're just awful.
Yeah.
They're just awful. And you don't see very many good ones every once in a while come out. This is one of the better ones, one of the best ones. And it's got a heavy hitting future actor roster on
No
this.
kidding.
It does.
Even though it's not, they don't all, like, the biggest career probably is Jerry O'Connell.
Uh-huh.
He probably has the biggest, but Will Wheaton still has a nerve.
River Phoenix would be that level of a star if he hadn't died.
And then Corey Feldman had his like teen beat days in
Yeah.
the late 80s and early 90s and all that. I don't know if we ever thought he was going to be huge, but he was huge in that little period window of time.
And then you do have your kind of bit characters of Keith Sutherland and John Cusack in there too.
Cusack has like one scene.
Yeah.
But this is good. I mean, it's what a cool adventure, like that, or a believable adventure that kids would go on. That there was a body somewhere, like in the woods somewhere, and like they go and have this big long, walk, and during this walk they sort of learn about themselves and all that.
If only they'd known, like, that this adventure was going to end basically with the loss of their innocence, if you will. I wonder if they would have gone on that trip, like, because they're basically not kids anymore after this is over, and that's sort of the point of the movie. But when you're that age, in that era, it's totally plausible that somebody goes, I heard there's a dead body over in these woods. Let's go look at it. Poke it with the stick. I feel like that's something somebody would actually do. And boy, I tell you, that leech scene sure kept me out of strange bodies of water for most of my childhood.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't want any leeches getting on me, and they had them everywhere. One of them got it on his dick, on his willy. He had to reach down in there and pull it off, and those little bloody fingers. That's gross.
Yeah, but it's great to see the interaction between these guys. Will Wheaton, who wants to be a storyteller, Richard Dreyfuss is doing the Richard Dreyfuss again. Is doing the narration. As the adult version of his character, and he's a guy who wants to be a writer when he grows up and everything, and he tells that really funny ass story about the eating contest and everything, where everybody ends up vomiting by the end of it and all that. So it's a perfect kid story to tell. But I love how they all I love the interactions between all these kids.
Yeah, and it's this is maybe Corey Feldman's best work.
I think so.
I mean,
other than the
Goonies?
Burbs.
Other than the Burbs?
Pizza Dude's here.
Pizza Dude.
Other than the Ninja Turtle movies. But I think it's a testament to the director that he's able to get so much good out of these actors who really don't have enough experience yet to be this good. And, Will Wheaton was probably ultimately more famous for Star Trek The Next Generation than anything else he ever did, but I don't think he was ever as good as he is in this movie, which is not to say I think he was bad. River Phoenix, I followed his career pretty closely, and he's pretty good in everything, but he's really good in this. And I think Kiefer should only play bad guys. Because he's just, he's that frightening older kid that might be dangerous that every small town has. Anyway, I really love this movie.
And it has dialogue in it that you could say that Pulp Fiction has. Like just some stuff in there when they're talking about like, what the hell is Grimace? And all that. Oh yeah, what the hell is Grimace? And all that type of stuff. It's really funny, like pondering type of stuff. Like, well, yeah, what the hell is Grimace?
Well, I never thought that Stephen King gets enough credit for the normal stories that he writes. I mean, we were talking about Shawshank Redemption and how brilliant that was. That stays fairly true to the source material. Green Mile, even with supernatural elements, is a great non-horror story. And then, of course, this, and there's a dead body in it, but it's not about that at all. So his ability to write in different types of voices is really cool to me. He's got a lot more range than I think people give him credit for.
Is this movie responsible for Wonder Years, the TV show?
I do think it did in some way. I mean, it's very close to that kind of thing. The narrator, Daniel Stern is the narrator in Wonder Years as older Kevin. And just all the, Wonder Years, the whole thing is coming of age. That's the whole point of the title and everything. But Yeah, I mean, I think it's certainly a precursor to it. It at least paved the way.
I think it's directly responsible. I think had A not come, B could not have happened.
Yeah.
That's just my theory.
That's interesting,
That's just my germ theory.
Okay, so Pulp Fiction versus Stand By Me. Who's first?
Jeremy.
Son of a bitch.
Yeah, man. It's closer than you would maybe think, isn't it?
It is, because for all of the impact Pulp Fiction had, and I think still has, on specific genres of film and launching the career of Tarantino. Okay, I'm going Pulp Fiction. I almost went Stand By Me.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to real bad. I just don't think it's if you let me keep talking, I'll change my vote, so you might as well go.
You know, it's interesting when we were talking about Dark Knight and how, for me, that last little bit about Harvey Dent and Two-Face is just, I don't think it adds anything to it. To me, I mentally check out for most of the Butch stuff in the middle of this movie. For whatever reason, because you're following these cool-ass characters, Marcellus Wallace, Vincent Vega, Jules Winfield, and then it kind of hits this wall of Butch and this whole boxing subterfuge and this whole different story. And what brings me back into it, though, is how that fits into the overall narrative. And then you got, him killing Vincent Vega, and you got all that stuff. I think that could have been trimmed a little bit, and I would have liked it more. But it doesn't otherwise detract from what I think is almost a perfect movie. So I 100% Pulp Fiction. Love Stand By Me. Mm-hmm. Also a great soundtrack in Stand By Me, too. So they're kind of going up. Pulp Fiction has my favorite soundtrack of all time.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with that.
Yeah. My vote doesn't matter, but I'm going to go Pulp Fiction. Yeah, again, I mean, Stand By Me is a fantastic movie.
Mm-hmm.
Pulp Fiction, I think I refer back to that movie more when it comes to just, stuff that is great. Stand By Me is a great drama, but I don't know if it doesn't have a lot of the same techniques and same little fun things that Pulp Fiction puts in. Pulp Fiction's just got a lot of just things going on as far as a filmmaking tour de force. Mm-hmm. Stand By Me doesn't quite reach. But yeah, great story. And I say go watch it, but yeah, Pulp Fiction.
Man, I helped bury it, but I'm sad. I'm sad about Stand By Me. That's my little guy. I like that little guy.
I like that. I think it's time to go to questions.
Okay, let's go to questions.
Let's go to questions. Would you put your A in my Q or your Q in my A? Do you like my song?
I do.
I'm kind of raising the roof.
I do. Now. I'm thinking of getting a Q so that I can put it in someone's A.
Question. I got something to say. I want the truth.
I am listening.
Give us a Q.
All right. In which movie scene? God damn it.
By the way,
the easiest thing to read ever.
I ended up having to leave, but I saw the Twitter link when you were on Sif Pop. And so I clicked it, and I was listening to the live pre-show, and ended up having to go somewhere, and I was gone for an hour. I missed the whole thing. But where you had struggled with that phrase in the beginning that they wanted you to say, and at the end when you got it, you were like, first try. And I lost my shit. Oh, man. And like somebody was commenting, this is why we listen to the live pre-show right here. That was fucking gold.
That's great. Okay. In which movie scene would you most want to be there doing what a character is doing? What an interesting idea. Now,
are we throwing sex scenes out, though?
I mean, you can put them in there, baby. I mean,
I like sex.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think we all do.
Go ahead.
I'm not starting.
It's like idiocracy there. Like Dak Shepard, like, I really like sex. Like, I think all of us do. And he's like, not like me though.
One of you has to go first.
I like the Borat where he's like, I like a sex. It's nice.
I'm gonna go with a little bit of some sex and a little bit of a whole bunch of like other type of debauchery going on. The Kip Pardue scene in Rules of Attraction.
Oh, Jesus.
Nice.
You want to have that guy's vacation?
Yeah, man.
He came back with about 3 venereal diseases.
Yeah, he did, but I would be more careful than he is.
Okay, good.
I mean, I don't know if you can have that kind of life though without being as reckless as he is, but the scene in Rules of Attraction is probably the best scene of Rules of Attraction. Kip Pardue is a friend of one of the characters in there, and he's like, so what did you do? And it's like this, just the movie just stops to show a very quick cut of him going across Europe, and it's narrated really fast. You're like, at first I went over there and did this, and I did that.
Got
I
drunk
banged
from this girl, banged her twice, and then left. Then made out with his sister. Then I went to Denmark.
Yeah, and it's just like a whirlwind tour of Europe while he's banging chicks and doing
And it
drugs.
goes on forever.
It does.
And to the point where I miss shit every time it's on because I'm laughing so hard.
I
It's like a
mean,
3 or 4 minute scene.
It was easy when this question came up to first say, like, any scene where someone is having sex with Scarlett Johansson. You know, I mean, it's easy to say that.
Yeah.
I mean, but I mean, I was trying to think other than that, you know, like I did consciously try to go, let's not make this all about sex. Let's make it about more debauchery. No, I was trying to think of some other stuff. You guys came up with some better ones, I think.
Well, I didn't send any answers, but I'm going to go with a little bit of something trippy.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I do want to have sex with a hot person, right? I'll just go on the record as saying,
Yeah.
you know, I wouldn't mind being
Like Clooney.
yeah,
Mhm.
like, yeah, I'm, yeah.
Yeah. See?
I'd fuck Clooney. So I'm going to go with a movie I don't even know the title of.
Oh, yeah?
But it's that movie where the New York Knicks pick Whoopi Goldberg out as a fan out of the stands to coach the team.
Eddie?
Yes. Now, I don't think I would want to do it in basketball, but I guess I kind of have to because we're stuck with this. But I've always had this notion that I would be an excellent professional sports coach
Ah,
of
interesting.
any major sport because I think I'm good at pushing buttons, motivating, and screaming.
Oh,
And I'm pretty good at strategy. So I've always wanted to, like, you know, I've always sort of had that fantasy of being the fan called out of the stands to come manage the team. Of course, I'd rookie the year myself all the way to the championship if I did. I think that would be rad. I love sports. I grew up loving sports. And I never even saw that movie with Whoopi Goldberg. Although I do believe this is the movie that got her together with Frank Langella.
Yep.
Who's the owner of the team, I think.
I think so.
God. Anyway, I would love that experience. So I'm picking that.
interesting.
Yeah.
And
And the sex.
the sex.
Yep.
I'm going to be like Kunu and do less with my pick. All right. So in The Big Lebowski, there's 2 scenes where the dude just is in his happy place, in his blissful nothingness. And one of them is when he comes back from meeting Lebowski and comes back and he's making his White Russian, his Caucasian cocktail, and he sips on it. And then as he's listening to Philip Seymour Hoffman leave a message on his machine, he starts enjoying his rug and like doing some Tai Chi moves and stuff like that. And he's just completely oblivious to, you weren't supposed to take that, if you could call us back, that'd be greatly appreciated. And then the second scene is right before a very traumatic event. But when he gets into the tub.
Yeah.
And he is just blissed out. He's smoking a joint. There's candles going. He gets another call on his answering machine saying that they found his car. And he's like, far out, man. Far out.
It's like, ah!
I have never been as chill in my life as he is at that minute.
Yeah.
And I would love to get to that point to where I could just be like, I am just in my space.
Yeah.
And that just seems very blissful. Now, a second later, he gets attacked by a marmot
Yep.
in the bathtub, so that's short-lived. But I think it's worth it to him. Like, he's got this passive, when he puts on the headphones to listen to bowling noises and stuff like that. I love that, man. I think it'd be great to get to that state.
You just want to smoke weed in the tub.
In the tub.
Yep.
Which it's an experience I've never had in my life.
I've never had it before either, but
yeah.
I think I know what I'm doing tonight.
There you
Yep. There you go.
go. Put the candles out, honey. Which do you think is the most clever plan in a heist movie? I always thought Spike Lee's Inside Man has a great plan that is very doable. Which movies come to your mind? Now, he's right. Inside Man is not only a great heist concept, but it's really well shot and really well paced to where I didn't at least get what they were going for, what the twist was at the end. It's really, really good.
Ocean's 11 is a fun it is patently ridiculous.
It is.
But I enjoy every minute of it. It lets you in on just as much as you need to know during it. And you're having fun just sort of watching them do it and everything. You're, Casey Affleck and Scott Conn doing their silly things are fun. Brad Pitt, George Clooney, and all them are positioned in just such a way that, that they're not really a part of it, but they're, they're not in there doing the vault stuff, but they're like sort of the quarterbacks of everything. And, seeing Elliot Gould do his stuff. I mean, it's just like just fun watching all these characters do their thing.
Carl Reiner too.
Carl Reiner. Yeah. But you see all that stuff, and then by the end of it, they're pulling back and they're showing you exactly what happened and where they were at the time and all that. It's always been the most. It's just one of the funnest things to watch. Don Cheadle, of course, has his good.
Let me ask you this: every time I watch this movie, I get confused by the bit where Brad Pitt's upset at Clooney for talking to Julia Roberts or chasing her or following her when he sends Matt Damon to trail him. What's going on there? Because they both know the plan, right? Are they pretending for the sake of the other Ocean's crew?
I think that's genuine, isn't it?
I thought it was genuine.
It is a bit of a wild card because she's not part of his plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's just kind of an accidental lucky break.
That's
I guess.
the way I've always taken that, is that it is a wrinkle that gets thrown in that he's not supposed to get distracted by her. And of course, eventually he gets pulled out of the action completely because he's in that like room and getting his ass beat by the guy who's really on his side.
Yeah, but that's part of the plan too, right?
Yeah, that's definitely part of the plan.
Because then they drop into the shaft. And
yeah. That's definitely part of the plan. But I think the distraction is what he's upset about. Is that you could end up like blowing this whole thing completely if you make too much of a deal about hanging out with Julia Roberts and everything.
I like the parts in that heist that you're not expecting, like when the trigger for the explosives doesn't work, and he's just like like banging it, and like what about the batteries? He's like, and he has this pause where he's like, maybe I need to replace them. And his whole like interactions with Matt Damon from the top to the bottom really are just, it's so much fun. It's those little things that are really fun.
Yeah,
it's great. It's preposterous. But
yes,
I really enjoy it. It's one of the coolest movies.
It is.
It just oozes cool.
Especially by the end of it, that music's playing. The what is it? It's a classic piece of music.
It is.
Isn't it?
That when they're looking at the fountains.
Yeah. They're looking at the fountains and that. Yeah.
Is it that one?
I think it is. I can't remember how it goes. And if
Something
I
like
do
that.
try to do it, it's going to just sound stupid.
No, it's not that one I was singing. It's something else. But you're right. It's a song and it's good.
But yeah, it's just sort of like a great after all this, it's a great breather at the end. Anyway,
I'm going super obvious and doing The Usual Suspects.
Oh
man, the reason that I'm doing it is because it is kind of a heist at the end.
Yep.
Because they're essentially going to destroy all the cocaine on this, right? And that was the whole purpose of them going to the ship. But it's got so many fucking layers to it, though.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got the whole, is it Keaton or is it not? Who is Kaiser Soze? Is he even present? They didn't know that. You got 3 of them that are going on because Benicio del Toro's character left him earlier. You have the pretty gruesome deaths of Kevin Pollak's character and Stephen Baldwin's character. And it's just kind of like, man, there's just so many elements to it. And then, of course, the big reveal adds 100% more to it. So everything about that is fun and interesting and witty, and it takes you several views to really kind of get through it and figure out, oh, okay, that's exactly what happened.
It also has that great moment that I've used often now when I used to drink Coca-Cola a lot, where Gabriel Byrne says, "There's no Coke. I've looked at every fucking room. There's no fucking Coke."
Coke should
so when you open up the refrigerator and there's no Coke. That's what pops into my head.
Yeah, interesting.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's my pick.
I'm going to go with the score.
Oh,
Robert De Niro and Ed Norton for the most part. You've also got Brando in here, and I think Angela Bassett. Have you seen this movie?
I've never seen it.
Oh, I think you would dig it. I'm going to ruin some of it for you.
Go ahead.
So basically, there's this De Niro's a thief, a professional thief, and he gets his jobs from Marlon Brando, but he doesn't ever take jobs in his own town. Don't piss in your own pool. But there's one that ultimately becomes irresistible, both because Brando really needs it so he can sell it for money and pay off these, I think they're Russians, so somebody he owes a lot of money to who's going to kill him. But then you've also got Ed Norton, who approaches and basically is an inside man at this museum, and he got a job pretending to be mentally challenged. And basically befriended this old man and has built this persona. And he's the inside man at the facility. He finds out about this scepter that they're getting ready to get rid of, and it's in it was in a piano leg, and they've discovered it and put it in a safe. There's wrinkles all throughout this, but not only is that pretty ingenious, like if you're it's almost prestige levels of commitment to the bit, right? To work at this job for weeks as a mentally challenged guy when you're not. But my favorite part of the movie is De Niro says, he finally invites Ed Norton over to his shop, and he's like, come here, I'm going to show you how I'm going to get the safe open. And he like flips pages in this book, but you don't see what they're looking at. And Ed Norton goes, is that even possible? And De Niro goes, just physics. And you don't get a payoff from that for 45 more minutes until they're in the middle of the heist, and you see De Niro, and he basically drills a hole in the safe and then high pressures water into it so that the safe literally explodes from too much pressure inside.
Wow.
And that's how he gets it open, is it basically blows the door off with water pressure.
Wow.
But I love the reveal, the way they sort of tease this mysterious method.
Yeah.
I think you'd enjoy the film.
Yeah. I remember when it came out, and it was during that period of time. It was in 2001 where I was not working at a movie theater. And so like a lot of times movies like that, which didn't get great reviews or anything, just slipped past, and I haven't to this day seen it.
Yeah, Ed Norton's really good in it. De Niro's basically playing De Niro from Heat, but without assault rifles.
Yeah.
And Brando's just Brando. Give me my paycheck. He's literally like sitting in a sauna with a towel draped over his head for like half of his scenes.
Well, I think that was sort of the
doing a Colonel Kurtz.
I think that was sort of the idea behind the movie too, was to get those generations of actors in there and everything. Weird though that they got Frank Oz to direct the movie.
It is a weird pick.
I don't know what the story is behind that, and I think there was a lot of trouble on that set
because
too.
it's not a comedy,
no,
at all. I mean, it's not a it's a lighthearted heist movie, I guess, in the sense that I don't think anybody dies or anything like that. But it's not a comedy.
But it is. You do get that De Niro, Brando, Vito Corleone thing. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and again, it's one of Norton's better performances, I think, because he gets to play basically two different characters. So check it out.
May have to watch that movie.
What we got? Any other cues for your a-hole?
If you could cut one scene from a film to improve it, what scene would it be and why?
Wow,
I got the answer.
Let's hear it.
Y'all can just like pack it in.
Okay.
It's the return of George Clooney in fucking Gravity.
Oh,
yeah.
Interesting.
You could cut that fucking scene and have her figure out how to get back, like have some sort of revelation through her oxygen-deprived brain, triggering some sort of memory, which she actually did. It just didn't have to involve George Clooney.
Yeah.
It was just a reason in an otherwise great movie to have your prestige actor come back into the scene. Completely implausible, silly, unnecessary. That is what I would remove.
Yeah, they could have simply gone back to her, like a flashback to her training or something,
Exactly.
and had somebody just kind of casually say, launching is landing or whatever the hell landing is launching. I don't remember which one it is, but it's one of those. But yeah, instead of him going in and being like, you see, this is what you do, and now I'm going to exit the picture again, Toots. I've talked about this scene before in The Natural where Bump Bailey, played by Michael Madsen. There's a problem for the film is that Roy Hobbs isn't going to be able to get into the lineup as long as Bump Bailey, who plays right field. And again, why can't they just put Roy Hobbs in left field? A lot of little decisions here that don't make a lot of sense. But the scene really takes you out of the movie for a bit when they kill Bump Bailey, basically. He is having the game of his life. Bump Bailey's got a talking to from Pop Fisher. And and he's like, all right, well, I better start playing okay, because Roy Hobbs is going to take my job. And he's like, awesome that day. And then like a fly ball in the outfield, he runs into the fence and he dies. and like it just doesn't need to be there. And in fact, they could have had him run into the fence and just have a season-ending injury.
Yeah.
They didn't have to kill.
Killed him.
They killed him, and they even have like a scene where a biplane goes over the field and pours his ashes over it and all that. I mean, this is like a movie that I adored like I love baseball and I love that movie to death, but man, when you're looking at it as an adult, you're like, you didn't have to kill Bump Bailey. There were like 3 or 4 different ways you could have written Roy Hobbs into the story, and I don't know how the book goes. I think the book is way different from the movie.
Yeah.
You didn't need that. Anyway.
Good. I almost went the Turning of the Cranes in The Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Which is a movie that I like already, and I know a lot of people don't. But that really is the silliest thing in that movie that really pulls you out the most. But I decided not to do that. Let's see how I cheated and just gave you a second answer. I'm going with my current most watchable movie, The Martian.
Yeah.
There are 2 scenes that drive me crazy. I think I've talked about one, and it's at the end when he gives his rant about how he's a space pirate.
No, yeah.
I think I talked about this because he has contact with NASA, but in the movie he says, I'm going to go take over the Ares 4 MAV. No one has explicitly given me permission to do. Yes, they have. You're fucking emailing them. They know exactly. They told you how to take it apart. In the book, he has lost contact with NASA at this point. And he really is taking over the craft without permission.
Yeah.
But they wanted to squeeze that pirate line in, so they put it in the movie. Drives me crazy.
Right. I mean, and to add to that, though, also, it's that's initially not what they want him to do. They want to have him be there for the food and supplies that show up and all that. And the Hermes is supposed to just go to Earth like it always was supposed to do. Once Sean Bean does his thing, Jeff Daniels is like, get him back alive, basically. And they're on board with it at that point.
Yeah.
So yeah, exactly.
And so now my real answer, now that I've given you 2 fake answers, when they discover that Watney's still alive, it's Mackenzie Davis, who's told to check the satellites. She looks at it and sees a couple of things are different, realizes he's still alive. And the next scene is Jeff Daniels, Vincent Kapoor, the the press person, which is Kristen Wiig, and Mackenzie Davis. There's 4 of them there. And the scene starts, and Jeff Daniels is like, how sure are you? And Vincent Kapoor goes, 100%. And he goes, prove it to me. He goes, all right, right here, the solar panels have been cleaned. And Jeff Daniels goes, they could have been cleaned by wind. Like, he's so dismissive.
Yeah.
And then they're like, okay, well, check this out. The Rover 2 has moved. He's like, well, maybe Captain Lewis, forgot to log a move before they left the planet. And then this scene takes a left turn because Kristen Wiig's like, well, why don't we just ask Captain Lewis on the Hermes? Let's get on Capcom and ask her right now. And Jeff Daniels is like, no, if Watney's still alive, we don't want the Ares crew to know. How could you not tell them? Well, they might be devastated to find out they left him there alive. They have dangerous space travel ahead of them. And then Kristen Wiig goes, I'm sorry, guys, you do not realize the shit show that we are in for right now. Hello, world. Remember the astronaut we killed and had a big funeral for? It turns out he's alive and we left him on Mars. Sorry, our bad. Sincerely, NASA. And that becomes the primary issue. The PR.
Yeah.
It immediately shifts the whole scene, and Jeff Daniels still has not been won over in this argument that Watney's even alive. He asks 2 pointed questions, doesn't get satisfactory answers, and then we shift to how are we going to spin this PR-wise.
Yeah.
And it drives me crazy because it's just not how human interaction would go.
Yeah.
Well, that's the PR thing in this is a weird thing about The Martian. It is a real frustrating thing. Like, the one where he says bring Watney back alive, and that's like apparently some horrible thing to say. like you don't say bring him back alive, and you're like, why, and they never explain it.
Well, the reason he would give is it reminds people he might die, but it's still just a silly thing to worry about.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Everybody is thinking it. It's not like you say, anything else is going to make this. I mean,
that drives me crazy. When I used to work at Barnes & Noble, part of their corporate training or their bookseller training was to say, when you talk to somebody on the phone and they say thank you, do not say no problem. Because if you say no problem, that leads them to think there may have been a problem.
Yeah, come on.
You have to say you're welcome.
Man, when I worked for Kroger, I was a manager for Kroger for 10 months. Shitty job. Nice company. You weren't allowed to use the word problems. Like if you had all your AC go out, that was an opportunity. An opportunity to improve the shopping experience by having the AC fixed.
Oh,
Every
nice.
problem or mistake was just an opportunity. It was this brainwash attempt to try and basically get you optimistically thinking and proactively think. It didn't work. Like we all did air quotes around opportunity whenever the boss wasn't around.
Well, it's like the Regal and the suggestive selling, which I'm sure suggestive selling has the same sort of deal everywhere that you go. But the idea was never to say, would you like anything else? It was, would you like nachos or Snickers with this today? Give them an actual thing, a tangible thing to.
Well, now they're even more strict, right? Because every time I go now at Regal, first the girl has to pull out a pizza box. Would you like to try a pizza today? No, I don't want that bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
She puts it away. I order a small Coke. She's got to pull out the small and the medium cup. Would you like to get this much more for 25 cents?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, no, I ordered the small on purpose. I know I'm getting ripped off, but I don't want to have to pee in the middle of the movie. Yeah. Anyway, so they're making them jump through even more hoops these days.
Yeah. All right. So that'll do it for this SinCast. Keep going to SoundCloud and giving us your thoughts.
Hey, I want everybody to play along with us. It's fun. Print out a bracket, fill it out on the Imgur page. Do it. Imgur. What is it? Imgur?
Just look in the link in the description on SoundCloud.
Look at the link in the
Because
description.
it's some garbled. It's like a YouTube video link. I don't have any fucking clue what that Imgur link is.
HQ/269. No, go to that and play along with us. And send us your picks, man. Like I'll look at. We'll all look at what you got and compare.
Send us your picks, but not pics of your dicks.
Yeah, don't send dick pics.
That's the beginning of my next rap song.
No, see,
right
now
there.
you definitely don't want to put that in the podcast. You're going to get dick pics.
Yeah, don't send us pickle pics.
Right.
Send us actual pictures of your bracket. And let us know what you think. If you vehemently disagree with some of our picks, let us know. If you think they're awesome, I hope you let us know too.
But my penis is my bracket. See, we're getting it back there?
It's like my voice is my passport.
That's right. My voice is my passport. Verify me. Anyway, that'll do it for this week. It's Chris Atkinson, Jeremy Scott, and Barrett Scher. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening. Comment on our episodes on our SoundCloud page. Check us out on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Reddit. And be sure to visit Cinemasins.com.
Because, I like the social media eyes.
Yeah.
Show us your box.
That's
Show
right.
us your box.
Absolutely. Hey, that's nothing dirty about that unless you make it dirty.
Hashtag
Get elbow
show us your-
deep in that nature box. and
You're the one who made it dirty, okay?
show us your natural box.
Just because I say box doesn't mean that you should immediately start thinking of other things. Anyway, go to naturebox.com/SinCast.
We're going to get fired.
We are going to
50%
get
off,
fired.
baby. 50%
right.
off.
God, I've just fucking nosedived this whole damn thing. I can't say nice things. Yesterday, my wife came home from the grocery I'm getting off track, with a turkey breast so that we could cook it and have a healthy meal sometime this week. And I said, "Oh, Margie, you came and you found me a turkey on my vacation away from worky." And she didn't know what I was talking about, as usual.
Oh, fuck, I broke the thing. You broke the fucking thing. I just think I've always found it hilarious in Die Hard with a Vengeance when they're tied together that they don't have a name for the thing that actually breaks them out of their handcuffs. So they just keep calling it the thing. And so Samuel Jackson's like, "Oh, fuck, I dropped the thing." And Bruce Willis, "You dropped the fucking thing?"
That movie goes on forever.
Yes, it does.
Oh my God! It was on a few weeks ago. I was casually watching it, and I was I forgot how long this fucking ending is.
Yeah, because he gets to the the big like warehouse hangar thing, and then that takes fucking forever.
Yeah,
right?
there's a boat thing
There's a
that
boat
takes forever, and then a warehouse thing that takes forever.
You know what movie takes forever is Dawn of the Planet of the Apes.
You think?
There's kind of a coda where it could have ended like before, because it's that weird. I like the movie a lot, but it's got that weird like Gary Oldman scene, you know,
Where he's trying to blow up the building that the apes are on?
Yeah, and without like the dude, Jason Clarke, just like grabs the gun. And it's like,
yeah,
here's what I have to, rather than just like telling him, because they don't know anything.
Yeah, and I don't think we need that parallel human conflict, because I think Koba fighting Caesar atop the building was dramatic enough, and that was the true hero and villain of the movie.
Yeah.
Humans are just kind of bystanders.
Yeah.
I think it's better than Rise.
I think
really
it is
like
too.
Rise.
Yeah.
And then War looks pretty good. I hope that fucking trailer line where Woody Harrelson says it will be a planet of apes.
I know.
I hope that's not in a goddamn movie.
Yeah.
I really do, because I don't even know how that gets scripted. Like, seriously? Jesus. That's worse than the Suicide. What are we, some kind of Suicide Squad? And I don't know if you've noticed, but at least in the comments on our videos, whenever there's like an Ex Machina or something similar, or not an Ex Machina, roll credits, a lot of people have been coming in and using that line from Suicide Squad, but putting the other movie in it.
Oh.
So like, what are we? Some kind of Schindler's List or whatever? You know what I mean? Like, whatever it happens to be. Chris left.
Yeah. He's just like, yeah, you guys take care of this.
Like George Clooney in The Descendants, he's in flip-flops running down the street. Awkwardly.
He's running after the construction workers. I just watched The Descendants again, man. I fucking love that movie.
It's so good. I love it. It's got a lot of feels. And Matthew Lillard, and I'm not annoyed by him.
Oh no.
That's
yeah,
pretty rare.
He toned it way down.
Yeah, well, it took him 3 decades to learn how.
Yeah.
But
I love it. It's Judy Greer in that, right?
Yeah. I always forget her name. I always call her the girl who flashes everybody on Arrested Development.
I don't know if I saw that.
Huh?
I don't know if I saw that.
Arrested Development?
I mean, I saw like some of Arrested
She's
Development.
Kitty, the secretary that has like 5 different episodes where she like, oh yeah, well, will you be able to forget these? And she lives, and she's apparently got like really fucked up wonky breasts because they never show them, but everybody's all like, no, put them away.
Fucked up wonky boobs.
Judy Greer is my jam, man. That's like my ideal girl almost.
Yeah.
I don't know her obviously, but like
Not yet.
but yeah.
She's a lot like her aunt Pam.
Yeah, they just like her Aunt Pam. Mm-hmm.
Remember that Seinfeld where Jerry's dating Pam, but he's not Gaga? And then Kramer falls in love with her. And he's like, Pam! Pam!
He says, I just like saying a name. Pam. Pam? Pam!
That's the one where they do Cyrano de Bergerac and Newman feeds Kramer the poem because she's a librarian.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
I'm not sure if I've ever seen that.
he imbibed her glistening smell
Is that
just before the other shoe fell.
is that a later season one?
I think so, because because George, I think then later reads that same poem to the board of Susan's foundation. So it would have been a season or 2 after Susan died.
Yeah. There was a point where Seinfeld was on. It was obviously on Thursdays.
Mm.
But like towards its last few seasons, I was always working on Thursday, and I never recorded it or anything like that. On the old VCRs.
That's right.
Those old contraptions.
Yeah. That don't play British tapes.
That's right. They don't play British tapes.
Stupid.
I know.
Stupid limey tapes.
No, I wasn't like, I don't think I had gotten to the point of missing that show really after a certain amount of time. Like I'd watched it from the beginning, and I watched like the 4 or 5 seasons, and then when I started working Thursday nights, I never watched it. And then now that it's on reruns, every time I turn it on a rerun or whatever, it's usually in those first 5 seasons. And the other seasons, I'm like, oh, I've never seen this one before. It's a lot of just different, like, and I don't know. I don't get wrapped up in it. But maybe those later seasons are better than I give them credit for.
So
I think it was pretty good. I mean, it obviously evolves. It's a different kind of show in season 8 than it is in season 3. But I thought everything right up until the finale was still pretty awesome. That's why the finale was such a letdown, because it was going out on a high note. They were still at the top of their game, except for that lazy, lame-ass idea.
Yeah, it was. Surprising.
Yeah, I can't even watch it. Like, if the rerun comes on and it's that one, I'm just like, no.
Yeah, I went through it again just recently, and like Jackie Childs gets with Sidra.
Yeah.
And like, they're real and they're spectacular.
I do like Jackie Childs.
I did watch late one night this week. Oh, when I was waiting for the podcast review, the one where Kramer ends up being dressed like a pimp.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like strong arm.
He's got the Technicolor Dreamcoat on.
But like, there's a wig master. But the greatest part is where he's like, you know, he looks down. He's like, it's a condom. And and he goes to the parking lot master guy, and he's like, hey, man, are you turning tricks? He's like, man, you walk through the city. Hey, it happens. You get in your car, condom.
That series finale thing has that just internally long courtroom scene where it's basically like a greatest hits or one of those memory episodes or whatever. It is kind of funny to see Jerry Stiller jump up and say 1.5 million for Hideki Arabu. Whatever the amount is, it's just funny because Steinbrenner's on the stand, and he's like $5 million for Hideki Arabu.
In an earlier one, when he comes over to his house, Frank is like, why did you trade Jay Buhner?
Oh, sadness.
Yes. Oh, Dios mío.
Fuck me.
I actually had trouble with the 90s one because I was like, what typifies the 90s?
Reality bites.
It's fucking almost, 3/5 of the posters in here from the 90s. And I don't know, it's just so spread out that it's hard to get something that like encapsulate. You don't want to say fucking reality bites or
that's what I just said. That's literally what I just said.
Oh, was that what you said?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
But it's all right. I'm glad you deride my answer.
Counting. I was doing fractions on
that movie is 90s as fuck. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
That movie is a time capsule.
It is tremendously 90s, especially when they do the whole thing when she finally gets to make her movie and the MTV has come in and like MTV-ified it or whatever.
Changed my art.
Pizza.
That I think is 90s as fuck.
I like that movie a lot.
That's another bad opinion you have.
It's good, man.
It's not.
Why not?
No, it's underrated. I wouldn't say that it's bad. I recently is probably months ago, but I recently saw a movie and it was I liked it better than I remember.
I did too. I liked it better when I saw it like probably 6 months ago than I did when I initially saw it.
It does play almost the entire All I Want Is You by U2. Like, it almost plays the entire freaking... I think it might. That montage at the end before he shows up out of the taxi. Mm-hmm. I love that song.
Mm-hmm.
All I Want Is You.
It's a great fucking soundtrack. Lisa Loeb, man. That was peak Loeb.
That song was massive.
Whoa, that's good Loeb.
That song was massive. It was huge.
I love that video.
I don't remember the video.
It's her in the house, and it's basically like kind of just tracking her as she goes to room. She's got those wonderful horn-rimmed glasses and everything.
That's the same glasses the secretary woman at the Monster Factory wears in Monsters, Inc.
Oh, okay.
You're late, Wazowski. You forgot to fill out your timesheet.
Whatever that, like, she's got the same kind of glasses that lady wears.
Yeah, horn-rimmed.
I didn't know what they're called.
Poor Lisa Loeb didn't have really a career after that, though.
Well,
she had like a reality show.
I think so.
Well, where she wanted to find a husband, right?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, Lisa Loeb is single and looking or something like that.
I hope she changed the glasses.
I'm telling you, My Sharona gets a bad rap for being an 80s like kind of like stowaway or throwaway, but I think it's a really good song.
That's actually a fun scene in Reality Bites.
You stay.
I feel like we can end up talking Jeremy into Reality Bites.
Let's not. I signed up for my wife and I to get Nature Box personally at home.
Mm-hmm.
And I took a flyer because my wife likes to try, interesting, weird, healthy snacks. And so I thought, well, what kind of frou-frou weird thing sounds bad to me that she might like?
It's a great place to start.
Yeah.
All right.